righteous and conscious, righteous coming from the depths of our experience. Coming from the depths of our experience here in Prince George's County, which is a microcosm of our experience here in these United States, is an eternal struggle. It is an eternal struggle. Understand that. What you have just gotten involved in, what you are continuing to be involved in, is an eternal struggle. Because at the foundation of this nation is what? Genocide and slavery. And determines everything that happens to us in this society. It's an eternal struggle. And so we're going to keep moving forward. I'm looking for my speaker list, but I don't think I need it, but someone's going to bring it up for me. It's right on this clipboard. But again, the purpose of this is to rejuvenate ourselves and to motivate ourselves for struggle. And we have to be organized in order to do that. So we have to be part of organizations. We have to build an organization. And so I'm going to bring up a sister here who is also organized and labored strong and long and hard, has put a lot of energy into this, not just in Prince George's County, but simultaneously in Montgomery County today. There's also a rally like this taking place, and she's coordinating statewide. When we talk about the Law Enforcement Officers Bill of Rights, that is a statewide law, draconian at its core. One of the first, 1974. So Sister Yannette, the ACLU, is going to come and give us some information and also some inspiration. But most importantly, information that we need going forward to next week, going forward to Annapolis and beyond. Sister Yannette, thank you so much.
Thank you, Jonathan. So as Jonathan said, the fight and the struggle is eternal. Policing in this country started out slave patrols, and that's exactly the manner that they're acting this way today. The system is not broken, it's working exactly how it was designed to do. Especially here in Prince George's County. Because racism in this county is not new, it is institutionalized, as it is everywhere else. From 1972 to 1977, Prince George's County Police Department killed 56 residents. In 1974, they enacted the Law Enforcement Officers Bill of Rights. They try to tell us it's because officers were concerned about their due process rights, or that it was because of labor rights, but that's just not true. Because we can't ignore the social and political climate of that time, and it has not changed since then. It is a law designed to keep officers from accountability. It allows officers to only investigate other officers. It gives them special due process rights, like 5 days before they have to give a statement. It allows them to get their misconduct records expunged after 3 years. It's ridiculous. No other government, no other state employee has these rights, and neither should the same group of people who have the ability to take your civil rights, civil liberties, and deny you of your life and take it away. Which is why they need to be held to an additional higher standard than any of us. Because if I get pulled over for a speeding ticket, it's up on case search. But if an officer kills somebody, brutalizes somebody, we don't know. And the Maryland Public Information Act is another hinder to progress or any accountability or transparency. If you file a police complaint, you can't even get your own statement or find out how your investigation, or how your complaint was investigated, whether it was slow walked or investigated at all. They just tell you, we did our job. You can't find out if an officer who killed your son or your daughter was involved in other murders or abuses in the community prior to that, or even after that. The community can't know. Defense attorneys can't even find out if the officer in their case, the sole witness in their case, has a history of lying to the court. They can't even find that out. So we need to revisit the Maryland Public Information Act and allow disclosure over police misconduct and investigatory records. We need to take police officers out of our schools because they don't belong in our schools. It's a direct pipeline to the prison. That is exactly how it's being orchestrated. That's how it's functioning right now. There is no research, no data to prove that having an officer in your school will reduce the likelihood of a school shooting happening. But we do know, and we do have data that shows that it's funneling children into the schools through the pipeline. In Maryland, just last year, we had 3,100 arrests of students, 70% for school fights, for kids acting like kids. And the majority of them are black. And it is not an accident. It is on purpose. If we look at the counties that do have school resource officers, police officers in schools, it's mostly the black schools. If you look at Howard County, it's mostly the black schools that have officers in their schools. It is by design. Third, we need to establish a use of force limit, because Maryland is one of 9 states without a use of force limit. It gives officers way too much power to say they did what the abuse or the force that they used was reasonable. It wasn't reasonable. We need to look at whether it was necessary. The totality of circumstances determine whether they put themselves in a position where force was even necessary to begin with. Officers need to be subjected and held accountable for not intervening when they see another officer being involved in abusing another citizen or resident in this county and throughout the state and around the country. But Maryland is one of 9 states that doesn't have that. So we call on the Legislative Black Caucus and all of the legislators in Maryland to sign on to our demands, to support the community who's out here and has been out here asking you to fight with us. Because you cannot do it alone, and they solely have the power to make these things happen. You all elect them every 4 years. Next election is in 2022, June 2022, and you all need to remember who shows up and who doesn't, and hold them accountable. And before we move on to the next speaker, I'm going to go through and say every name that we have at least a record of that has been killed by police in Maryland, because there's many more we don't know. Then this is just going back to what, 2014?
It's about 10 years.
10 years. Not that long ago. But like I said, between 72 to 77, Prince George's County alone killed 56 residents. We don't even have that data, or at least I haven't seen it for the rest of the state. So there's more people we have lost than we know of, but I'm going to read the names that we do know of, and we're out here to prevent any more from happening moving forward. Albert Denton, Alan Harvey, Angel Chiwongo, Angela Randolph, Anthony Anderson, Anthony Hammond, Anthony Howard, Anthony Stokely, Anthony Trice, Anton Black, Archie Elliott III, and Anton Black would have been 21 years old today, but he was murdered 2 years ago. So Archie Elliott III, Arnett Myers, Ashanti Pickney, Hams Manley, Bernard Lofton, Billy Rucker, Briette Duffel, Dondre Johnson, Chandler Julius, Charles Smith, Chester Crestwell, Chiwonga Angel, Christopher Brown, Corey Joyner, Curtis Deal, John Graham, Daryl Graham, Darren Hutchins, Darrell Brown, Dayton Harbor, Delrick East, Deontre Dorsey, Derek Selman, DeVell John, Devontae Bowen, Devon Bateman, Dante Bennett, Dwayne Williams, Edward Bright Sr., Elijah Clay, Emmanuel Oates, Emmanuel Otsuga, Eric Garrison, Eric Harris, Eric Stokes, Etan Tanzimore, Fendel Rahenville, Fernand Berhe, Falon Oladande, Freddie Gray, Frederick Miller, Gary Batonio, Gary Hopkins Jr., George King, George Willis, Glenn Tydell, Gregory Campfield, Hakeem Muhammad, Jakai Colson, James Adele, James Brown, James Coleman, James Norris, James Peoples, James Quarles III, Jeffrey Alston, Jeffrey Morrow, John Figgins, John Monroe, Jonathan Lyles, Julius Chandler, Kareem Ali, Kareem Morgan, Keith McLeod, Keston Lewis, Kevin Burson, Kevin Mason, Kamani Johnson, Corrine Gaines, Cottrell Newsom, Larry Hooker, LeVar Douglas, Leonard Chan, Leo Young, Mark Blocker, Marquise Wims, Mason Haley, Matthew Wood, Maurice Holmick, Maurice Johnson, Michael Bailey Jr., Michael Miner, Michael Woody, Christie, Nikias Pagana, Maya Hall, Nathaniel Safar, Patrick Fisher, Patrick Tony, Percy Holland, Perry Webb, Prince Jones Jr., Rashad McCray, Rashad Oprah, Randall Owens, Ricky Hall, Robert Johnson, Robert Jones, Robert White, Rodney Edwards, Rodney Sims, Ronald Royal, Randolph Bell, Ryan Martin, Team Gamble, Sean Dean, Sharon Jackson, Thomas, Spencer McCain, Sydney Jorgens, Swan Boyd, Terrell Young, Harry Thomas, Harry Grant, Savon Smith, Thomas Miller, Tilton McDonald, Tonya Buggs, Tracy Whitford, Trayvon Dodson, Trayvon Scott, Tyrone Banks, Tyrone Brown, Tyrone West, Van Johnson, Wallace Maddox, William Brown, William Green, William Turbert, Winfield Fisher III, and Yakuna McDonald. And so many more names, but again, those are just the names that we have record of for the last 10 years. And they're taking people's lives in the streets, but also in the courts, because they're also involved in wrongful convictions. We had 3 just in Baltimore City. One officer was responsible for 4 wrongful convictions, spent almost over 30 years of their lives based on a lie an officer told. So we need accountability, we need transparency, and we need to end the practice of police policing themselves. Because when they are policing themselves, they're really letting themselves off the hook. And so that's all I have to say today, and I'm going to turn it over. And our next speaker is going to be the amazing, the strong, and the brave Nikki Owen.
Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for showing up and showing out. A little closer like this. Okay. My name is Nikki Owens. I am the cousin of William Green. I am here today to not only make sure that justice for William Green happens, I'm also here to make sure that justice for anyone who has been a victim of Prince George's County is served. I feel like there's so many voices that have been silenced out of fear, out of lack of knowledge, that just don't know what to do when these things happen to them. So my mission and my goal is to make sure that people are informed, people are unafraid, and that people understand that they're not alone, that there are people here that are willing to fight for them and with them to get justice for the police brutality that happened against them, for any murders that happened within their family that was at the fault of the PG County Police Department. I will talk briefly about my cousin. It's really not easy for me to talk about my cousin, but I need people to understand that my cousin's murder affected my entire family. It didn't just affect his mother or his kids, it affected his entire family. We all miss him. When they murdered my cousin, they took a piece of us. They took a piece of all of us. My aunt is suffering. That's what people don't see. They don't see the pain that this caused. They don't see the hurt that this caused. They don't see the damage that this causes to people's family. What they see in the newspaper is that the police department trying to criminalize these people, trying to assassinate their character, trying to make it seem like a traffic stop is justification for murder, that because he may have had a minor crime in the past, 10 years ago, he deserves to die today. This is insane. This has to stop. And we have to be the people that stop it. We have to continue to protest. We have to continue to use our voices against the people who are supposed to protect and serve us, against the people who are supposed to fight crime. The people who are fighting crime are the criminals that are being murdered by someone that they have a responsibility for, and they're okay with it. They watch it. It doesn't bother them. It's not a conversation that they feel they need to have when they go to work the next day.
I agree.
That's a problem. So I just hope that this movement continues to grow, that the knowledge that's passed on to the constituents of these people who refuse to act grows, that the fight doesn't stop, because I'm tired of watching my aunt cry. Every time there's another murder, it's like January 27th all over again. I just really want people to understand that it can be you.
Yeah.
You're not immune to this. None of us are immune to this. It could be you. So please just be willing to stand up, use your voice, and don't let fear hold you back.
That's right.
Don't let it doesn't affect me personally hold you back.
That's right.
Don't let the fact that it doesn't necessarily happen in your neighborhood hold you back. Because every person of color at this point is a potential victim. So please just keep fighting. Thank you so much for coming here. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day and making Black Lives Matter, making people of color matter, making all of us matter. I just want to say thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, give it up for Sister.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
No justice! No peace! No justice! No peace!
No justice!
No peace!
No justice!
No peace!
No justice!
No peace!
What do we want?
Justice!
And when do we want it?
Now!
When do we want it?
Justice!
When do we want it?
Now!
When do we want it? When do we want it?
Now!
All right, awesome. Keep the energy up. Keep the energy up. Give Sister Nikki Owens another strong moving hand. Like you really mean it. If you need something to drink, like you really mean it. All right. If you need something to drink, there's water and Gatorade over here. So please hydrate. Please hydrate yourselves. All right. Good stuff. How's everybody feeling?
Great!
How's the energy going? All right.
Yeah.
All right. Awesome. Awesome. Let's keep our energy up. I want to thank all of you for your energy and for being here, for actually being present, but actually being in this movement at this place and at this time. We know that history is made by the people, right? It is not enough for us to simply study history and simply know history. We know that change is made by the people themselves. The time is actually neutral. Time itself doesn't change things. You know, there's some people that really think things will change over time. No, it doesn't. It actually takes people waging struggle in order to change things. And with that spirit, I want to bring up to the podium, it's hard for me to talk with this man as I hold his back was spread. I want to bring up to the podium a sister representing the organization that has been at the forefront of our struggle for decades. Founded in the late 1950s, I'm a little biased, I'm originally from Atlanta, Georgia, so I'm a child of this organization. And each and every one of us have benefited from this organization, but I'm also reminded of the political education that has to take place for us to truly understand our movement has to be connected to that education. I'm thinking about the late George Jackson here, the bottom of page 25. Blood in my eye. He states that before, I want you to hear this, before I bring this sister up, before revolution can actually take place, all forms of redress has to clearly have broken down the minds of the people. You heard some of that from Sister Tracy earlier. Any form that the government can actually correct the problems of the people. Josephine is one of these people that's sounding the final call, if you will, to the local authorities to say that we have a deep-seated problem, and she's doing her best, I believe, to try to bring those officials in to correct the problem. Let's see if Josephine can be successful. We'll bring up to the podium the president of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference here in Prince George's County, Josephine Barker Morton. Thank you. All right, it's sprayed for you, Josephine. Give us a strong movement hand. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, as Jonathan said, I am on the committee to try to make some changes in this county. And that's the Prince George's County Reform Commission Task Force. We're going to submit a lot of recommendations to our county executive. And a lot of the recommendations are some of the demands that are on the roster today. But some of the demands that are there are not recommendations we will be making because they are not presented to us. Now, one of the things are unredacting the documents that the attorneys use in order to present their case on behalf of the defendant. I strongly believe that an attorney cannot do his job if he doesn't have documents that are unredacted. We must be transparent in everything that we do in this county. And also, I heard the grand jury mentioned. Well, here's the problem. I served on the grand jury for 6 months, so I know how it goes. And I'm going to tell you something. If I hadn't been on that grand jury, there's several people that would have been indicted that I quit, and I stopped them from indicting. So what y'all got to do, you got to tell our state attorney, you got to educate our grand jury. You got to let the same protection that the defendant have in there also let the plaintiff have, let the defendant have too. Everybody should be represented in that grand jury room. What I saw in the grand jury room was most of the grand jury, all they were doing was indict. Well, I stopped them. I said, wait a minute. Let's see the evidence. Because all was happening was the case was being presented, but the evidence was not being presented. So the grand jury member said, oh, there's evidence? I said, absolutely. And we should all see this evidence before we say indict. So that's one of the things we've got to do. We got to tell our state attorney that you have to educate this grand jury and let them know that their indictment could be sending a person to prison that's actually innocent. That's what we got to do. Another thing that is very important that these documents be unredacted is because we have so many black men and women who have spent their time in prison for crimes they did not do. And we got to stop this. It's happening to people of color. And we got to stop it. And the way we will stop it is to make sure all evidence is presented. I thank you very much. And on closing, all I have to say is please go to the polls and exercise your right to vote. We got to vote like our life depends on it. Ancestors died so we can vote. Please go to the polls. Thank you so much.
Talk about George Floyd, that's Tyrone West, that's Anthony Anderson, right here in Baltimore, right here. We live this every day. They don't want to check this system. They're so fast to come back and write us a goddamn check. They think that's accountability. That is not. Keep your blood money. We want accountability, right? Killer cops and cell blocks. And when you pay us money, let's be clear, that's money you should pay us. Because if you take my goddamn life and I'm a provider, you better pay my goddamn family. You take me from providing, so it ain't got nothing to do with it. It's not about the income, it's about the goddamn outcome. And that's what they keep on forgetting. And the reason why I'm so totally against reform, even though, yeah, it's needed, but I'm tired of it. Everything is on the books already, and they still killing us. Everything. They need to repeal this whole goddamn system. I give a shout out to the workers for trying to repeal the police officer killer rights. That's what it is. Goddamn killer rights. They get to kill us and go home to their goddamn families. Enough is enough. Enough is enough. Not a victim. So I'm here to say, we open all these goddamn cases. Nobody don't want to talk about that. They want to reform. My reform. We open these goddamn cases because guess what? Every case matters. Not just the ones on the national level. Every case. Because all our blood don't even make news. Enough is enough. So if we're going to let them stop playing us with this community violence, street violence, all the same. The highway of hell. They're not protecting our loved ones. We care about all of the violence. Whether it be community violence, because guess what? We live in a goddamn community. We gotta wake up. I'm tired of seeing so many people die every day in my community. We ain't safe no goddamn way.
No way.
We ain't safe from the criminals or the police, but guess what? The police are the criminals. The police are the criminals, and I feel sorry for the very few good women and men in blue. I feel sorry for the very few. Because I've never been anti-police, always anti-police brutality. It's a big difference. We're more than hashtags and body bags. We're more than being 6 feet in the dirt and 6 feet in the dirt and pictures and buttons on t-shirts. Our freaking lives matter. It may not matter to y'all, but it matters to the families that you leave behind that's going to stand here strong and fight you until my coffin drops. I'm never going to stop. For all the victims of police brutality, we won't stop, we can't stop until killer cops are in cell block. We won't stop, we can't stop until killer cops are in cell block. Mic check. Mic check.
All right, now let
No peace!
No justice!
No peace!
Thank you, beautiful people. Thank you, Tracy, ACLU, and all the other organizations. I see West Wednesday. I see Dot. I see you, Dot. I see you, Miriam. I see you. I see you, Beverly Smith. I see you. I see you, Josette. I see you. I see you, Dawn. I see you. You hear me? I see all you pounds. I see you. This is what this is about. There's too many lives that have been affected by police brutality. And you see some of the face right here. We got people from Baltimore, Montgomery County, D.C. coming together to stop police brutality in the DMV. Let me tell you something about police brutality in PG County. That's what I know. We have 6,800, over 6,800 use of force complaints on officers in PGPD. 19 of the officers, 19, now this is from 2016 to 2019. 19 of them officers are responsible for 10% of the 6,800. That's 680 people affected by 19 officers. Do you hear what I'm saying? That's a problem. That's a public issue, a public safety issue that needs to be addressed immediately. That means 6,800 people, let's talk, in 3 years have been brutally assaulted, I can guarantee it. Enough to go do a complaint. They have been assaulted enough to go do a complaint, and nothing out of 6,800 complaints, only 99.8 were justified by PGPD officials. Let's talk about them. Let's talk about your chief, your acting chief, Velez. Hector Velez. He was responsible for IA from 2016 up until 2019. He was responsible for signing off on the justification, calling those complaints justified. Those use of force justified. Now he's your acting chief, PG County. Now he's your acting chief. How does that happen? How does 68 people complaints go under just go unchecked for 3 years. That takes a lot of officials, though. That takes a lot of high people in high places. Do you hear me? For that to continue, for people to show every day that something is going on in that neighborhood and nothing is done about it, it's an agenda we got to work on. It's an agenda we got to find out what's going on. And it seems like exterminating us is the fucking agenda. Exterminating our family members is the agenda. That's a problem for me. That's a problem for me. I'm gonna tell you about my son. My name is Tina Hudson Hurst. I'm the mother of Kevin Sneed. Kevin Sneed was brutally assaulted 2017 by PG County police officers. What made it so awful and egregious, they beat him for almost 3 minutes, but did not leave it there. They charged him with attempted murder. And then planted a handgun on him that was in a known come up off the car. Stay with me. How does that happen? That takes a bishop. That takes people in high places. For them to prosecute a man for 2 years for somebody else's crime, the police. For somebody else's crime. Them the criminals. Them who should have been in jail. They prosecute my son for attempted murder, a handgun, and 14 other charges. For 2 years. Ruined his life. Don't keep telling me he had to die for him to make his life a matter. Don't keep telling me that. Because why? He died that day. He is a shell of who he used to be. I'm watching him rebuild himself for a broken tail light. Stay with me. For a broken tail light, we gotta do something, people. We gotta stand up. And it's gonna take every last one of us. It's gonna take every last one of us. If you directly impacted, I implore you to sign community justice sign up. We got to work together. It's the only way. The directly impacted will lead this movement. It's the only way. People are supporting. We got ACLU. We got Yonette. We got all these people that support it. But let's be real. Unless you put your feet in these shoes, you can't possibly feel what I feel. We have to stay connected. We have to. Let's start going against these elected officials. I'm going to give you some names to go at. Because nobody is over Angela Also Brooks in PG County. She's the decision maker. She answers to nobody.
Cheat on that.
Nobody. So make sure you write Angela Also Brooks. Talk to Angela Also Brooks. Let her know we don't want to wait for your task force chick. For 3 years you allowed 6,800 people to be assaulted by your officer. No more time. Do it right now. The only way that you ever want to be able to hold an officer, stop police brutality, is by giving them jokers something to lose. Give them something to lose. The late great Dick Gregory said, ain't no reforming no officer. You can't reform no officer. You got to give them something to lose. Because guess what's going to happen? They're not going to worry about killing your nigga child. That's how they feel. They're not going to worry about doing that when they're going to worry about their pocket, their livelihood, their freedom. We need to repeal the law enforcement bill of rights. We need to eliminate qualified immunity and make them regular citizens.
Absolutely.
Bring them down to our level.
Absolutely.
You guys, I ain't going to hold y'all. I love you all, and we have to stay connected. Right?
In Prince George's County, Maryland. At the time of Gary's death, he was 19 years old and he was a junior in college. He was a full-time student majoring in mass communications with a business minor. He also worked a part-time job at a local nursing home because he said he loved to talk to the elderly. They were very, very wise, and so was he. On November 7, 1999, Gary was murdered by 2 Prince George's County police officers, and I'm calling their names out. Ryan Catlett and Devin White, following his attendance at a dance at a local fire station in Lanham, Maryland. Gary that night, as I mentioned, he was a peer to his mentors. One of his friends got into a verbal altercation that night, and Gary, being the peacemaker, broke up the fight.
They were headed home that night. They wanted to leave the fire station. There were two exits, one on the left and there was one on the right. Gary gathered all of his friends that attended that event that night. But let me just step back for just a minute, because people say, he was at an event, he was at a dance. Yes, he had the right to be at that dance. Our loved ones are being killed while they go to a dance, when they walk, when they talk, when they drive. And so Gary had every right to be at that dance that night. I mentioned that Gary worked a part-time job. His supervisor hosted that dance that night, and Gary was there because he is having a very difficult time, because just 16 days earlier, I lost my husband, his dad, to metastatic stage 4 bone cancer. And Gary was enjoying himself. As I mentioned, he loved to dance, so he wanted to party that night. His supervisor invited him thinking that it would help Gary because he was having a very difficult time with the death of his father. And so as they were trying to exit the fire station, or getting ready to exit, Gary, as I mentioned, was a jokester, always playing jokes. He had his friend wind the window down in the car. He was a passenger in the back seat. He sat on that window ledge of that car because he wanted to make certain every one of his friends were safe. As Gary looked back to make sure they were still in place, the police officer, Devin White, got out of his patrol car, blocked him from exiting, and put that cold gun to Gary's head in November. He put that pistol to Gary's temple, and Gary moved it away from his head. He was moving about. I can only imagine and see Gary then, like, this dude, you gotta be crazy. So he's moving his head and he's moving that gun away when that officer pulls Gary off the ledge of the car by the collar of his shirt, and Gary stumbled backwards. And the second officer, who was moonlighting, doing off-duty security at the event that night, shot Gary in his chest. And that's when the cover-up began. There was no support to Gary. He was at the fire station where there are paramedics. But there was no help given to Gary. Gary was actually taken from the arms of his girlfriend and drugged to the side of the road. Gary was taken to a hospital that was directly across the street from where this tragedy occurred. And when I drove up after hearing from his girlfriend that he had been shot, under no way did I think that Gary had been shot and killed. So the cover-up began. I went to the hospital, and these are stories that you all have heard, because again, the narrative never changes. The narrative is in fact scripted. If you listen to some of the stories 21 years later, you're hearing the same thing. You heard earlier, Tracy mentioned her brother. What did they say? He lunged at me with knives. I thought they had a weapon. So the story never changed. That event for me was my reason that I began the activist work, and thank goodness for the Prince George's People's Coalition of Police Accountability, Jonathan Hutto, and many others, Dorothy Elliott, who's also here to speak, saved me, and they supported me through the entire event. He was just an overall great human being. Gary loved to write, he loved to dance, he was a jokester. He was an aspiring rapper. He loved the supermodel Tyra Banks. Her picture plastered all over his wall in his bedroom. He loved the trolls that are still today very, very liked. He loved his Aunt Kate's snickerdoodle cookies, and his Aunt Kate is here today. He loved my homemade goulash, which is really beefaroni, and he used to crush the nacho cheese chips up in it, making it look, extremely nasty. But
this is a decades-long, centuries-long struggle. And when we say struggle, we're talking about the basic qualification of life. That in the absence of struggle, there is no progress. Absolutely none. So with that being stated, to give us our purpose for why we're here, to give us our mission and our marching orders going forward. I'll be back momentarily. I want to call a sister who has marshaled us, who has coordinated us, who has facilitated us, who has put in the long hours, who got here at 10:30. That's what an organizer does. They're the first one on the scene. Got here at 10:30. And she's going to be the last one. But we're going to be standing right there with her all the way today. Let's bring her up to the podium, bring her to the microphone. My sister and yours, Sister Tracy Shan. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for coming out.
executives, senators, everyone that stands in the office that's not doing us any justice. Thank you for joining with me to fight today. Thank you for joining with me to get the word out. Thank you for coming out of your beds, out and close to your family, just to come out here, hold up signs, pass our flags, to educate our people in Prince George's County, Maryland. We got Baltimore coming down for support. We got Montgomery coming down to support, because we are all in the same fight, and we will not stop fighting, and they must know that. So to start off today, I want to say something. For those that don't know my brother, his name was Leonard Celestalot Shand. My brother was killed on September 26, 2019. My brother was stabbed and put into the hospital and charged with false charges in April of 2018. Officer Whiting committed that crime. A year later, they came back and they killed my brother. They shot him up over 44 times. They fired off at him. They handcuffed him and gave him CPR with his hands behind his back. Anybody out here has CPR training? Yeah. Don't they say you're supposed to have them flat on the ground to give CPR? Yeah. How are you giving CPR to a man you done shut up? How are you giving him CPR with his hands latched behind his back? You cannot do that.
And you're not doing it.
But you did not get indicted. They said no, they were not going to indict you. And then on top of that, while you were being investigated, Officer Alsabrooks, no, it wasn't Alsabrooks, Wad decided she wanted to put officers back out in the streets. Now tell me something. If I go out here and I commit a crime and I get banned from Maryland and I gotta work in Maryland, can I come to Maryland and work? And I'm banned? And I stop because I'm under investigation? I got a criminal case going on? So how the hell the police get to do it? I don't understand that. How you get to do that? When you go and file a complaint in Hyattsville, you know what they tell you? The case was not indicted, so we won't be investigating into your case and take it on personal levels. You got me? So now you're telling me that you don't give a fuck, excuse my language, for all the kids out here. You got me? You're telling me you don't care. So how am I supposed to show you? How am I supposed to trust you? Can I trust you? That's the question. You sit there and you tell me, we're going to do this for you when you want to get elected. But then when you get elected, when you get into office, you stab me in my back. You stab me in my back and you leave me for dead. So how am I supposed to trust you? You hire police officers and you train them to fight against the citizens that they are supposed to protect. Right. And you hire officers that are racist towards black people and Latinos, and you put them in our neighborhoods to murder us and kill us. And then you want to sit back and say, what can I do? When we tell you to repeal the law enforcement Bill of Rights that is causing the problem, what do you say? We need to put something in replace of it. What is that? When you created it, did you have something else? So why can't you repeal it and start from a fresh place? You got me? But if you want some ideas, you know what you do? The same way how you went out to the community and you went to the citizens and you said, vote for me. Come, I'm here to protect you. The same way how you can go out into the community and say, hey, what do you think I can do in replace of the law enforcement Bill of Rights? Ask us and we will tell you. We need transparency in the police department. How many people have been in a job, or no, better yet, let me tell you something. How many people have dated a man, women, and your man don't tell you nothing. You're always wondering, what's going on? Don't that frustrate you? Men, how many of you have dated women? And you look at and say, hey, where you going? She says, out. Don't that bothers you? To everybody it bothers. That's what the government is doing to us. What are you doing? We got our private executive meetings. We cannot let you in right now. As soon as we're finished, we'll get back to you. How does that make sense when I'm the one that elected you? I'm the one that's paying the taxes that's actually paying you. Why can't you let me know? And I'm the same one that's sitting here putting money in your pocket so that you can be able to protect and defend me. You got me? That doesn't make no sense. Okay. So now when we sit here and we say we do not need officers protecting other officers. That's the Law Enforcement Bill of Rights, right? We don't want officers protecting other officers. When we go into the grand jury, and this is going to be my closing out argument, and I just want you to think about this. There's something I thought about. When you have the grand jury, think about it. When you catch a charge as regular citizens, and you got to go up against the jury, don't you have your lawyer there, and then you have the DA there, and then they have to present your case, and they have to let them think about it and weigh the pros and the cons of that case before they convict or not convict you, right? So how is it that the grand jury is only able to hear the arguments of one side and make a decision on if somebody did something wrong when they don't have the full story?
But
You got me?
Their version of it. Their version of it.
They're getting one side of version of it.
Their version.
You got me? How does that make sense? I'm not understand. That's the case, right? That I need to quit my job and I need to become a police officer. I need to be a governor. I need to be a senator. I need to be a freaking president. That I can do whatever I want to do and not have no consequences because that's the best life to live. You got me?
Right on, sister, right on.
So we have to change these laws. And it doesn't start with, one person, two persons. We need all of Prince George's County. We need all of Maryland. We need all of Baltimore. We need everybody to step up and change these laws. And once we get Maryland fixed, different counties, districts, cities, then we will jump and attack New York, Connecticut, Jersey, Pennsylvania, California, Georgia. We will come for you. We gotta start one step at a time. One step at a time. And I'm tired of people coming and saying, we've been fighting for years. We should not be fighting for years on the same issues. So that tells me you are not dumb. You are purposely playing with my intelligence. You get me? Okay. So as long as we understand, we will stand out here and we will show our side and we will march and we will do what we have to do. Pass our flags to let everybody know we are not just fighting for ourselves, we are fighting for you. Because you are affected too. They will come for you in your taxes and everything that they can to tear you down. They will kill your kids in the street. So we're not just fighting for us that has already lost loved ones. We're fighting for you because we do not want to see it happen to you because we actually do care. Thank you.
Give another strong moving hand. Give another strong moving hand to Tracy Shand. Give it up for drop the flag. Give it up for her like you really mean it. Give it up for Tracy Shand like you really mean it. What you heard?
This is direct action against the unaccountability for police brutality that continues to happen in gorgeous Prince George's County, where the beloved county executive Angela also Brooks is the executive, as well as she has her bid in for the 2022 governor of Maryland race. Enough is enough.
Last time, when do we start beeping our horns? Which one is hers? Yeah, let's go.
Wake up, PG County! Hey, hey! Ho, ho! Racist cops have got to go! Hey, hey! Ho, ho! PG cops got to go! Hey, hey! Ho, ho! Racist cops and PG got to go! Hey, hey! Ho, ho! Cops have got to go! Hey, hey! Ho, ho! These cops have got to go! Hey, hey! Ho, ho! These cops have got to go! Hey, hey! Ho, ho! Racist cops have got to go! Hey, hey! Ho! Racist cops have got to go! Hey, hey! Ho!
Work where you can. I'm about to pop. Yeah. And they can drive around.
Hey, hey! Ho, ho! Racist cops have got to go! Hey, hey! Ho, ho! Racist cops have got to go! Hey, hey! Ho, ho! Cops have got to go! Wake up, PG! We out here! Justice for William Green! Justice for Leonard Shed! Justice for Leonard Shed! Justice for Leonard Shed! Police accountability! Police accountability! Police accountability! Justice for Leonard Shed! Justice for Leonard Shed! Justice for Leonard Shed! Hey, hey! Oh!
These racist
These cops have got to go! Hey, hey! Oh, oh! These racist cops have got to go! Hey, hey!